Hey, welcome back to another sit down video. Again, I'm just gonna do books. I'm trying to decide on whether I want to do homeschool stuff with you guys and whether that be something you're interested in. I know I really only have about 10 to 15 of you that are really even watching my videos, so it's kind of questionable on whether it's something that people even care. But it's for me, and so I'm gonna keep doing the book reviews because I don't mind looking back on them and thinking about the books that I read. I'm also going to keep doing travel vlogs because obviously I love traveling, and it's really fun to see my kids as they grow and they love watching their videos back. So that's going to be the continued content for now. If you guys comment or like or do anything on these videos, it helps me to get seen by more people outside of just my close friends, and it's super helpful, so we'd appreciate that. I am sorry if there's background noise in this today. We are living in Germany and it is hot and we don't have air conditioning, so we have fans going constantly, and I am not about to sacrifice turning them off just to record a video, so a little bit of fan background noise is going on. Also, I want to apologize in advance because I thought that I was spacing out these book things with enough space in between that I'm not going to have a massive amount of books but have enough to talk about. And I should have recorded this at the beginning of May. I realized, because as I was making this list to talk about today, I realized I've been on a really good kick. I think I'm still only keeping up to one book a week average. There may be a little bit more because I've been picking up kind of some audiobooks here and there, but about a book a week is what I'm reading currently, and that was my goal for the year, is to read 52 books, so I think we're doing pretty good about that. So I am excited to read these to you. These are pretty much every book that I've read since March, I think. So I'm going to give you kind of a review if I can remember the book. Some of these books I probably rated really low on stars because they're not very memorable. Kind of like last time, there was a couple of books where I was like, when did I read that? What was that? So hopefully I could do a pretty good job of this for you guys. I will make sure to include the picture either here or before I start talking about each one, depending on how I choose to edit, aka if I like here edit or if I decide to edit it myself. So the first book that I read in March was Moss Flower. If you had listened to the last one, maybe, or are just friends with me, you'll know that me and the kids have throughout the school year been reading the Redwall series. We actually, really excitingly, found someone that was giving away, selling the entire rest of the series of Redwall that we needed, so we have those now, so we're not having to worry about taking them out from the library, because it does take us longer than they want us to have them to read, as we do them read alouds throughout the school year, and we just really like to enjoy them and do fun voices, and it's a fun time for the kids and I to sit down and kind of introduce them to the fantasy world, which is obviously where I love to live in the book realm. So Moss Flower gets a great 5 stars. If you haven't read the Redwall series, again, I've mentioned that you should, because it's a very cute, definitely more kid oriented, but they're large books. I mean, we're talking like 400, 500 page books. They're not small, easy reads, but it's about mice and other forest creatures and living in a world together and fighting wars and yeah, you get the gist. Alright, so the next one I read was Where the Crawdads Sing. My mom and my sister had read this and sent it to me. I never really heard their opinions on it, so I guess this will be the first time they are hearing my opinion on it, unless they read my Goodreads. But I was so underwhelmed by this book. I know it's a movie, maybe the movie is better. I have no idea. I don't really intend to watch it because I was uninterested with this book. I thought it lacked depth of character. I felt it lacked storyline, kind of. It just kind of was very boring to read. I drug my feet reading it. It took me way longer than was necessary, considering it's like a 300-page book. I just could not get into it, and it just felt so inconclusive. It felt like there could have been way more brought into it in the drama of who did what, and if it was her, or I don't know. I get that we're just supposed to find out and learn more about her as a person, and I just was so underwhelmed. So this was not a good read for me. I know it's a fan favorite for a lot of people. It's just not for me. I just could not get the appeal of that book. Maybe you guys can explain to me in the comments what you guys enjoyed about that book, and maybe it will change my mind a little bit, but whew, that one slowed me down in the reading department. Another one that took me a while to get through, even though I had it as an Audible, is Atomic Habits. I think that's because I was kind of waiting to read it with Dustin. He's just not into the self-help books. He will listen to books with me, and we've been walking every month or every day for the last couple of months. And so we are reading books together, but he just isn't into the self-help books. I don't know if it's just, I don't know, but he doesn't read them. So I picked up Atomic Habits. It's obviously very trendy right now in the self-help world. But I've read a lot of self-help books in the past, and so I was kind of underwhelmed as well with this one. It has some good tips. So if you're kind of new and fresh into the self-help world, I think you're gonna pick some things out of this that are gonna be very helpful for you to manage your life. But if you're like me and already have pretty good routines in place, and you already know what is a good habit, what's a bad habit, and how to kind of work with them, you're probably not gonna get a lot from this book, more than what you would from any other self-help book you probably read. Yeah, it's a pretty good book, but it just felt like the same facts being retold, and it was more of a autobiography of the man who wrote it, and I was kind of underwhelmed is gonna be the word of the day. All right, so The Housemaid and The Housemaid's Secret. I picked these up from Kindle. I keep wanting to call KU Kindle University. I think it has something to do with some other book that I read. Kindle Unlimited. Because they're free, right? So if you have Kindle Unlimited, I mean, relatively free, you pay very little for as many books as you want a month. So Kindle Unlimited has The Housemaid and The Housemaid's Secret. I picked them up because everybody talks about them, and The Housemaid was crazy. It was one of those thrillers where you're like, oh my gosh, what is happening? This is crazy. Is this really going on? Who's doing what? And then it completely flips you on your head, and you're like, what? Everything that I thought I had figured out is wrong. So The Housemaid was amazing. It was written so well. I read that book probably in a couple of days. Was so excited after a few kind of meh books to pick up a book where I was like, yes, this is great. So this kind of put me back on the kick of thrillers, which you'll see here that I've been doing a lot of like thrillers and mystery type books lately. It's just kind of been a thing that has been interesting me because they're quick, they're fast-paced, they're easy reads. But this one was awesome. Then, of course, because it's also available for free in KU, I picked up The Housemaid's Secret. It is kind of the sequel. I mean, yeah, it is the sequel, I guess, of The Housemaid's. It's got the same character in it. However, this one just didn't do it for me. Like, there was similar parts of it that were kind of thriller, but it was kind of repetitive to the first book and just really didn't have as much of a draw or any sort of like, what kind of moment in it. And it was too much, too slow, too just underwhelming again. But the first one's amazing, so the second one's not bad. It really is something you can read. I read it probably relatively quickly as well, but I just wasn't as excited about the second book as I was about the first, which is just saying what I mean. So read them together. It's fun read, but just know that the second one's not gonna be as exciting and as like nail-biting adventure as the first one was. All right, so then after that I went on vacation to Italy, and so I picked up a couple light books. I'm gonna mention one that I read because I thought, oh, I'm in Italy, let me read this book. Eat, Pray, Love. Started reading it, didn't even get to the 100-page mark, could not finish. That book, that woman in that story is pretentious, she is whiny, she is just maybe it gets better, but I wasn't there to wait. I was not gonna find out. It was not giving me vacation vibes. It was not giving me inspiration and motivation that everybody talks about. It was nothing. It was killing my motivation and my inspiration vibes about Italy. So I said, nope, we are getting rid of this. So I knew that coming out on Netflix was The Man Called Otto, and I thought the preview for it looked adorable because I saw it on TikTok. And I was like, well, this looks like a nice, happy story, a nice story to fill in the bubble, blah, blah, blah. So the actual book is called A Man Called Ove. And so I picked up the book and was really excited to start reading it. It is such a cute book. If you haven't watched the show or read the book, you really should. I don't know that I would say either direction which to do. If you prefer watching shows, watch it then. Reading it was great too. However, The Man Called Otto follows the book almost exactly. There was a few things that kind of annoyed me, but it follows it pretty precisely, and you just can't get better than the amazing acting that was in the show. to really bring that book to life. So I was quite impressed with how they were able to bring the book to life. So Man Called Otto gets thumbs up. I even watched it with my kids who cried through the movie. So it will make you cry. It is not a feel-good movie. To some extent it is, because there's a very cute relationship between the old man and the neighbor, but it is sad. It is very sad at the end. So do be prepared to bring some tissues. So the difference between the two that kind of bothered me is in The Man Called Ove, the main character lives in, I believe it's Sweden. So the book has more things that are European, UK-esque details that in the movie they very much Americanized. So like the different kinds of autos versus the Ford and Chevy. So very minor details, but it just kind of annoys me personally that they have to change where the story takes place to Americanize it to be relatable to the Americans who are going to watch the movie, I guess. But the American company is the one that chose to produce it, so they get those kind of dibs, I guess. Maybe Chevy and Ford were paying them good money to help produce the movie. I don't know. I don't know why those things, details like that get changed, but be prepared that there is that one change. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. So Water for Elephants. Obviously I watched the movie first of this book. I don't know why, but because I'm usually pretty big advocate of reading and then watching things, but I had watched it first. Sorry, my neighbors are loud. And this is another one that actually I'm quite impressed that the book and the movie are very, very similar to the actual story. I think you just kind of lose a little bit of the backstory in the movie, but I don't think it takes away from the full storyline. So I enjoyed the book and kind of getting a little bit more of the backstory of the main character from that, but I don't think you can go wrong again with the acting that goes into Water for Elephants, the movie. They casted that thing primo, like the beautiful casting with amazing actors and actresses. So if you're, again, not super into reading books about movies, watch the movie. This one's fine. You're gonna love it. You're not missing much between the book and the movie, and it's all a really great story, and it's a very interesting part of American history. The whole circus theme of it is, as well as the acting is just, like I said, they pull off those characters better than the book explains them. So, just saying, another one to maybe watch the show. Alright, so then I had no more books along with me on the trip. So I had left that book at our Airbnb that we were staying at with my brother and picked up a different book, but I decided to save it for later. And so I just went back on KU, and one of my favorite authors, I guess, there's two of them. If you know the Twisted Sisters, I've talked about them in the past. They wrote Zodiac Academy, but they have a new book called The Kingdom of Gods in Ruin, as well as, I don't remember what the actual book is. This is the prequel to this new series that they're starting. And I wanted to read it because I read most of their books, and their writing is just phenomenal. If you haven't read any of their books, do it, because you're going to just be drawn in with the most insane vigor that you're just not going to be able to stop reading their books. You're just going to love them. You'll love them as people. They make TikToks. They have a whole book community, and they are putting out books pretty much every few months. They're amazing. They're phenomenal. So obviously I'm a big Twisted Sister fan, but this new book is more like Greek gods. So it's very different from their like Fae or their kind of Americanized school type books. So this one is very different. I can't really go into it too much. It was really good because the prequel is not going to be what the books are about. This is showing how they got into the situation where the books are currently. And it was fun because one of the main characters, the main character of this prequel's name is Kira, and as you all know, my daughter's name is Kira, it's spelled the same, so it was kind of fun to read a book about her, and I was glad that in the Twisted Sister realm it is a bit spicy, so I was glad to find that there was only one scene with her in it, so it wasn't weird for me to read. I did try to read a hockey book earlier this year, didn't get very far because the main character's name was Darren, and it was about him, and it was a romance, and a spicy romance where I was like, nope, not gonna be able to do it. So I was glad to see this prequel was mostly just storytelling and backstory for the upcoming books. So if you are looking for some new fantasy, look up the Twisted Sisters. You're not going to go wrong. I will try to include their names in the comments or something because I always forget what their actual names are. I think it's Caroline Beckham, and yeah, I will include it below. But yes, their books, all of their books, you could read any series that they have. They have like 7 or 8 series and you're not going to go wrong. The character development, she just makes you fall in love with everybody, and then they rip your heart out multiple times. If you want just one of those painful but ever indulgent books, whew, go for it. Alright, so the next book I read was The Boy Who Saw. If you watched my last video, you will know that I ended up reading The Searcher because I had this book on hand and found out this was the second book, and so I needed to read the first book. I was obsessed with The Searcher. The Searcher was wildly awesome, and for an unexpected read, it was just really good. So then I was like, oh great, I'm gonna love this book. I'm really excited to read it. I picked it up and I read it, and it just fell flat. It wasn't that it was terrible, but it just wasn't as exciting. And the main character who was in The Searcher, who is the only character who is similar to this next book, is like very much not important. And it kind of lost the whole like traction of following him and giving any reason as to why I would continue to read the series. So it's a no for me. I don't remember what I rated it. I probably gave it a few stars because I always rate right after I read them. So I kind of always a little bit into the emotions in the story, but I don't think that it was worth my time. It was a very long book and I just didn't leave the book feeling all that excited about it. So yep, underwhelming again. Alright, so then on my shelf I have here in my room, I have all my TBR. These are all the books that I own that I haven't read. Not that I don't read, that I haven't read yet. And so I've been working really, really hard this year. That's why my variety of books that I've been reading is kind of all over the freaking place. But I've been working really hard to try to get through all these books. So I read The Lost Apothecary, which I had gotten from a thrift store, I think. I don't know where I got it. It was a book of the month, but I'm not a book of the month, so probably a thrift store find. And everybody that is in the book of the month has bought this book. It's a beautiful book. It's gorgeous. And actually, I really liked this book. It was kind of unexpected because I didn't know what it was about when I went into it. And I personally love historical novels. And this one was really fun because you not only get the main character's storyline that's going on presently, but you're also getting the research that she's doing and then also hearing the characters with whom she's finding out about through her research of this little glass vial that she finds in the river on her trip to London. So she's learning about the history of what these 2 other characters that we go back in time to learn about are doing. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the back and forth. I enjoyed the 2 separate storylines, the different characters, and I just thought it was well written, and it really just kind of draws you into the whole point of the story and what was going on. I don't want to give it away. If you go listen or read like the synopsis, that's a big word, but of that book, you'll get probably a little bit better understanding. The girl goes on a vacation to London and has a history minor, like she learned about history in college and was very interested in it. So she finds this little vial. She talks to a person at the library who thinks she should research it more and helps her to do a little research. And in their research, they find out about an apothecary that had been lost to the history of time, that was serving of all women. And you just kind of get to hear what the Lost Apothecary is from the actual apothecary story. So read it. It's great. It's worth the hype. It's one of those books that like a lot of people talk about, but it was really good. So if you're into kind of history and just, I mean, it's imaginative history, right? Like it's not accurate history, but it was very good. It was fun. It was a very fun read. It makes you want to I want to find some historical object and learn about something that nobody knows about, because that would be really cool. So that was a good book. Ooh, the next one. This one's been like one of my favorite 5-star reads this year was Everybody Fights. If you know the Holderness family from YouTube, from TikTok, wherever you found them, Facebook, they live in Raleigh, North Carolina, so we kind of related to them a lot when they first became really popular and their kids and all this stuff. So we have always been a fan of the Holderness family. I actually saw them at a hockey game. No, I saw him, Penn, at a hockey game when we were in North Carolina at one of the Canes games, so that was cool. But they are comedic, but they're super relatable, especially if you're parents of kids, and you're in your mid-30s to 40s. You know, you can kind of relate really well to everything they have to say. They wrote a book called Everybody Fights. It is a relationship self-help book, I guess. I don't know. This is the book that got me and Dustin into reading together again, because we would listen to this on our walks or before bed, and it was really good for us, I think. It just kind of goes over that everybody fights, but here are some really good advice that we got from our therapist, the authors, on how to fight more effectively and how to not allow fights to cause rifts within your relationship, to cause gaps, so that you're having a fight, getting to the conclusion of the fight and learning from your fights versus just having big blow-ups that just don't get solved. This has been really nice for us. We took this, digested it together, we listened to a podcast about it, then I sat and took notes of the book, and we made a note we both can read on our phone, to just kind of bring ourselves back to it every once in a while and be like, oh, we've been arguing a lot about this subject, so let's use this method and these steps to get through it so that we can move on with life, you know, instead of just always it comes back up once we're, you know, we'll be mad about it and then let it go and then it's going to come back up. Let's actually have this argument and get it out of our system, work through it, and come to a conclusion. So I enjoyed this book. I've referred it to all my friends on social media, and quite a few of them have read it as well. I don't know if they read it with their spouse, but they read it and loved it. So this is going to be a good book for anybody who's married, I think, if you want to, or if you're getting married is one. Honestly, I think that this is a good tactic to have in your back pocket before you get married. If you're engaged and planning on being married soon, read it with your future spouse and just kind of be on the same page when it comes to arguments so that you can have a much more productive life and a much more happy life together. So that's my opinion on the book. I think everybody should read that book. All right, so the next book I read is All the Missing Girls. This book, although the name is a little bit misleading, there is only 2 missing girls, and one doesn't go missing until halfway through the book, so kind of, I don't know, but it's another really fun mystery thriller. I was pretty shocked by this. You do kind of solve the mystery quite a bit before the end of the book, but it doesn't bother me because although we figured it out and we learned from like how the missing girls happened, I guess specifically, it still was a fun ride, and it was the only thing I was really sad about was the main character's fiance, I think. But she just kind of ditched him at the end. Sorry not to give that away, but it's really not important to the main story. But like, it was wild. It was wild. This is a crazy thriller. I really, really enjoyed this. I actually set it aside because I want my husband to read it. He probably never will, so it's probably going to go in the donation pile. But yeah, another really good wild mystery thriller. So if you're into thrillers, All the Missing Girls will get you really thinking the whole time. You're going to be trying to solve it. You're going to want to read quickly. That's the thing. I tell you, thrillers, like, you want to read quickly because you want to know what's going on, because if it's written really well, you have no idea and you're just on edge, or you assume you know the answer and then something gets thrown in the loop and you're like, no way, that could not be how that went. You get some detail that's remembered or some detail that was undiscovered previously, and it is a wild ride. I love thrillers, so this one is very good. If you want a really good thriller and a crazy, crazy story, and the way that it ends is just whoa, you should read this one. Oh yes, the next book I read was Book Lovers. if you've read it, you know. And this is another one of those that's very trendy and very like popular. But I have to say it's for very good reason. Again, like, it's just cute. It's kind of a frenemies to lovers kind of story, and then you think it's not going to be, but it is. Obviously, this is a romance. It's not very spicy, so that if you're not into the super spicy books, it's just a romance that's real cute, and I don't know, it just makes you feel really happy and fulfilled in the end of the story. I don't want to give too much away, but as a romance, you know there's going to be the two main characters who end up falling in love. But it was really quite adorable, the whole story, and being a book lover myself, any story that has to do with books, libraries, authors, you get it. I love all things about reading. I am not like the TikTok book talk girls who are like, oh, here's my new book haul, and they have 500 books that they probably never read. I mean, granted, I have a lot over there, but I get them all used secondhand, and a lot of them I've had for years just because I get too wrapped up in KU. So I've been trying to stay off of KU a little bit this year so that I'm not leaving these poor books unread. But yep, Book Lovers was worth the hype. The storyline is just so cute, and this hard city girl letting herself be free and enjoy her life is just great. It was great. I'm going to talk to you really soon about, actually, you know, I'll just go ahead and skip the next one and go to this one. So another book that I got, where did I get that recently? Oh, so I went and got 4 books from this girl for $20 the other day, and 3 of them I've never heard of but picked up because they all seemed kind of booky. So I also got The Bookshop of Second Chances, which is very similar to Book Lovers. So if you loved Book Lovers, you're gonna love this one. It's very similar story, but different characters, different way things end, but very similar in that it's got a cute little bookshop that the main character goes to. Well, she works at, actually, and she lives in Scotland, so it's kind of got some of the cute Scottish things going on, and I loved them both, and they were so close and similar in storyline, which is crazy, and it just felt like I was rereading the same book, but just a little different, and I didn't hate it. I loved both of them. So if you guys are looking for a real cute bookstore, booky, super bookish romance, yep, pick up Book Lovers or The Bookshop of Second Chances. Both are just prime real estate, man. Those are some cute books. If you just need a quick, easy read, something that's gonna make you feel good and be happy while you're reading it the whole time, then you're not gonna go wrong. Pick up those 2 books, sit down and enjoy a summer evening reading some books. But that brings me to another audiobook that I listen to on our walks. I will tell you, this is going to be highly opinionated, the review of this. My husband has a very different opinion on this book, so this is definitely going to be dependent upon how you see the world, whether you're a girl or a guy potentially, also whether you like this person or not. So we listened to Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. I wasn't just underwhelmed. I did not like his story. I do not know that I cared for him in the first place, but had heard him in an interview on a podcast that I listened to and thought, well, he is having a YouTube live series, or maybe it's already over now, that kind of goes with this book, I guess. I don't know. I'm not interested anymore, but I was interested in, so I was like, let me pick up the book, right? Let's listen to it. Dustin agreed, so we listened to it, and nope. I do not like Matthew McConaughey. I think that he's pretentious. I think that his book was very self-centered, and I got nothing from it. I know that most biographies or things like that, there's tries to be some sort of here's how I've gotten through my life, and this is a great tip for your life kind of thing, especially coming from someone in his 50s, 60s. I don't know how old he is. He's old. I mean, I'm old, but just no. I don't want to hear about your wet dreams. I don't want to here, just, I wish I could have stopped sooner. Obviously, like I said, my husband really liked this book, and so we continued to finish it, but boy, was I zoning out through most of the end of it because I just did not want to hear it. I just cannot stand that book. If you have me on Goodreads, you can read a little bit more, but just, nope. I mean, it was really the wet dreams that really started me not liking it. Like, why do we need to hear about this ever? Like, why do you think that the public needs knowledge of that information from you ever? And then a lot of it was also talking about drinking and doing drugs and just, oh, nope. It was a big lose, a big L for me. So that's my opinion, and I think that it can go different ways for different people, right? Like, I don't know. You might like it. I did not. All right, I have 3 more, and I have to keep it under 3 minutes, so we're gonna get a little bit power heavy here. So we have Daisy Jones and the Six. Picked it up. It's another one of those that the book cover itself is just so beautiful. I didn't really like it that much. I think that it was interesting. It was written as an interview style, so it was really fast. It was really easy to read. It was about a band that doesn't really exist, so it was a fantasy novel, kind of, you know, it's fiction, but it was just made up, and I had no draw to it because I didn't know the band because it doesn't exist. And so hearing an interview of their story, it just wasn't for me. I just thought it was kind of boring, and there was really no storyline, and the character development was not really there. Overly underwhelmed by this book. Super underwhelmed. I'm gonna give it to my sister because she was interested, but got nothing. I think if you listen to some 70s rock while you're listening to it, might add to it, but just it was not it. Then I listened to Scrappy Little Nobody. That is Anna Kendrick's book. I read this one on my own. It is hilarious. If you are in your mid-30s, you are going to relate so heavily to Anna Kendrick, and she is hilarious. She is just dry humor. She is perky. She is just funny. She doesn't give a shit what other people think, and she just brings it with her. She tells you her life story and says, choose how you feel about me, and that's your opinion because your opinion doesn't matter to me. You are going to love it if you are my age and relate to females, I guess. I don't know. I just really related to her and this book and her life story. And the last book I just finished was Bring Me Back, another thriller. I know, we've been on the kick, but this one was crazy. It took me a long time to figure it out. Once I did, but like, whoo, that was a wild ride. The little Russian dolls that show up all the time are crazy. You should look up kind of what this book's about, but his wife or his girlfriend goes missing for 12 years, never knows, and he ends up dating her sister because they were both grieving and fall in love. And then there's a possibility that maybe she's still alive because he starts seeing these little Russian dolls that represent her all over the place, and it's crazy. You're gonna have a crazy one, so read this book if you like thrillers. If you want to be on a thriller kick with me, it's pretty crazy. I don't know why I have so many thrillers on my bookshelf, but it's been good. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry that it got really fast, but it was also really long. So if you were here, I want to give you a high five and thank you for listening to my reviews. I highly doubt anybody's still here, but if you are, give me a thumbs up in the comments and tell me what your favorite read was recently so that I know that you're here. And like and comment and subscribe and just help us get the videos going. We will see you on another travel adventure soon.